America's first dive coaster came in the form of Sheikra at Busch Gardens, Tampa. This is a 200-foot dive coaster. It is no longer the largest in America, but it is one of three. Its sister being Griffin at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, which came shortly after. And then in 2016, we got Valravn at Cedar Point. This overall has a pretty similar layout to most dive coasters, but does have a slightly different ending. Now, if you know me, one of my home parks is Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, so I've been riding Griffin for years. So, Sheikra comes along and I get to try it out, and so I can't help but compare it to Griffin. Heck, even part of me wants to compare it to Valravn, since out of the three dive coasters, this was the last one I needed. And like I said, we have a lot of similarities, but a couple differences. I'm just going to walk you through the ride experience and show you what I mean. So the first thing you'll notice is with Sheikra, it actually has a double loading station. This means that they can load two trains at the same time. It helps with efficiency. Very cool feature. You don't get that on the other dive coasters. Also, these trains do not have 10 seats across. They have 8 across. Griffin has 10 across, and Valravn has 8 across, but Valravn also has the vest restraints. Fun fact, Sheikra didn't always used to have floorless trains. They started off with a floor, however they were converted into floorless trains. So naturally, I've only ridden it floorless. But you do start off with that large lift hill, that nice scenic turnaround, hangs you over the drop, and then you fall 90 degrees straight down, reaching a top speed of 70 miles per hour. That is 1 mile per hour slower than Griffin, so essentially the same speed. You aren't going to notice that 1 mile an hour difference. And overall, the drop feels the exact same. You're going to get some serious floater. You are coming straight up out of your seat, especially if you are in the last row. Now, when Sheikra goes into its first drop, it doesn't actually have a tunnel like Griffin does. But Sheikra does have a tunnel later on in the ride, which I'm going to get to. But after that drop, you go into an Immelman, massive element, kind of a smooth roll into this inversion as you twist out of it. That's when you pop up into the mid-course brake run, taking a breather. And this is my personal favorite part of Sheikra. It's the second drop into the tunnel. If you're sitting on an outer edge seat, this almost acts as a near miss element because you don't think that you're going to make it. You think that the clearance isn't wide enough. So it's pretty cool that you drop into this tunnel for the second drop. To me, that is what separates this from the other dive coasters. Now, another difference is that this does not go into a second Immelman like Griffin does. Sheikra only has the one inversion. Instead, Sheikra goes into a turnaround, then the splashdown, and then actually a helix, and that's when you hit the brake run. Like the other dive coasters, Sheikra is very smooth. You aren't going to find a rattle or anything. These dive coasters are notoriously smooth, and overall, it's a fun ride. I mean, these dive coasters aren't exactly like super forceful. You do feel some cool moments of weightlessness when you're going over those drops, but I wouldn't say these rides are really strong in the positive G-force side of the spectrum. If you want a B&M that provides good positives, go for Kumba or even Montu. So overall, Sheikra, it's an enjoyable ride. I mean, to me, I'm just not huge on dive coasters. To me, they have always felt like one-trick ponies, no matter how much you try to change it up. No matter if you add more elements, different theming, it always just kind of feels like a gimmick to me. Yes, it's fun, but dive coasters, out of all of the other types of rides that B&M makes, dive coasters are fairly low on the list. I mean, I'd take it over a stand-up, but I prefer the inverts, the hypers, the sit-downs, flyers, etc., etc. You get the point. But I also recognize that these rides are very popular with the public. They love it because it is intimidating, it's scary. I mean, hanging you over a drop, I mean, wow, forcing you to stare straight down. Anyone who doesn't ride roller coasters very often is going to be terrified by that moment. And it's definitely a good fit for the Busch Gardens parks. I do like them, and Sheikra itself is a gorgeous ride. I personally like this color scheme more than the other two dive coasters in the US. I think its colors are very vibrant, and so they pop. I love it. But comparing it to Griffin and Valravn, I'd probably put it right in the middle in terms of which ones I prefer. I would take Griffin over Sheikra, but I would take Sheikra over Valravn. To me, what just kills Valravn is the vest restraints, even though it does very well in the second half of the ride. Sheikra is definitely kind of lacking in the second half with the exception of the tunnel, but enough comparing them. Giving Sheikra its final score, I'm going to give it a solid 8. I think this is going to thrill a lot of the public. This is going to be a big crowd pleaser. It's pretty high capacity, has some nice elements, but in the end, it didn't wow me. Dive coasters have never wowed me, and it's just the nature of the ride. It really isn't anything against Sheikra, it's just the model. As an enthusiast, I'm just not that impressed by him. But I also recognize that it does a lot of things well, which is why I gave it 8 points. I just didn't give it a perfect 10 just because I don't think it's a perfect ride. But I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Sheikra at Busch Gardens Tampa? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? You can post all those thoughts below, and of course stay tuned for more coaster reviews coming soon to Coaster Studios. Thank you for watching.